Oh, we here, Dominica. It's time for the talk on the block. If it's on the block, we'll talk about it. Good afternoon to you, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing at this time. It's time for talk on the block. If it's on the block, then we'll talk about it. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come right back.
During the hurricane season, if you are evacuating, leave early so that you are not stranded by flooded roads, fallen trees, wires, and traffic jams, and make sure you have enough fuel in your vehicle and follow routes and highways. A message from Q95 FM Radio.
Need one trusted place to stock up for your home, shop, or business? Fine Foods Inc. Distribution has got you covered. From dry goods and frozen foods to your favorite drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, plus all the household must-have. We've got it all under one roof. We're right here in Jimmy Dominica, and yet we deliver. Whether you're running a supermarket, a corner shop, a bar, or just like your pantry full and happy, Fine Foods Inc. brings you the best brands you know and love. Great prices, top-tier service, trusted products. At 255-6810 or 316-0164, or drop by our Jimmy location to check out what's in store. Fine Foods Inc.
Fine Foods Inc. The biggest distributor for the biggest brand.
Dio Kubule, Teta Nuka Bwe, Dio Kubule, Teta Mule Bwe, Hele Kubule, Nuka Chede Bo, Selma Kubule, Ave Angi Onko, Bakalache, 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 Dio Nobe Kubule, Bakalache, 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 Dio Nobe Kubule, Bakalache, 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 Nobe Kubule, Bakalache, 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 Nuka Bwe Kubule.
Drink responsibly.
Missy, autant de nouvelles qui nous pour confirmer pour nous savoir. Oui, confirmation pour l'élection commencer. Pour ça, allez à l'office élection en Liwan et menez au monde qui registre pour vote en même polling station et puis pour ça servir au témoin. Et là, on va venir mener en carte d'identité saoudien ou ni en déshabilité. Pas mêlé. Il y a ni officier qui est venu au tir pour information. Confirmation, c'est le 15 octobre 2025 et qu'a dit Yonani. Pour l'information, qui est 617 9595. Et bien, suivre l'office élection à son média social. Pour ça, confirmer la même.
Danny, you hear the news from the electoral office, right? That we have to get confirmed. Get confirmed? Why so long I do that? Years after I make first communion. Was not that I talking about. Is getting your name on the new voters list in accordance with the Registration of Electors Act 2025. Go to the confirmation center in your constituency. Bring along a witness who must be a registered voter in the polling district. Walk with a valid government issued ID. And what about my granduncle now who cannot leave the house? Don't worry, man. An enrollment officer will check him to conduct the process. Confirmation runs from October 2025. Confirmation hotline 617-9595. Follow Dominica Electoral Office on social media platforms.
All right, Dominica, we're here. Another warship has been summoned to the Caribbean. Of course, the Caribbean is becoming very concerned and very worried. We have to pay attention to what's going on in Venezuela. Because it appears that a strike is imminent. And we in the Caribbean should be very, very concerned. Just last week, I spoke to a seasoned diplomat, Mr. Crispin Gregoire, former UN ambassador, who said to me that he too is very, very concerned. Very concerned.
Matt, the region should be concerned. I take very, very seriously everything that the President of the United States is saying, and we should not take this lightly. I got up this morning quite nervous about what may unfold. You have 10,000 U.S. troops in the Caribbean right now. You have warships in the Caribbean right now, U.S. warships. You have U.S. submarines. You have U.S. attack helicopters operating off the coast of Venezuela. An intervention is imminent, Matt. I would say it's a matter of days as opposed to months right now.
You say days?
Yes, because right now, any day now, the U.S. can intervene in Venezuela. They're well positioned on and it's worrying because it's going to affect shipping in the Caribbean. Definitely. We have the potential of a refugee crisis that could unfold and overrun Trinidad, which is the closest island to Venezuela. Shipping in the whole Caribbean could be checked and slowed down. I mean, the airspace, especially from Trinidad going into Venezuela, could be closed. So there are a whole range of possibilities of what could unfold. Of course, I'm not a military strategist, although I studied militaries a lot. But Matt, I have never seen I am in my late 60s now, and I have never seen, except during the Grenada intervention of the U.S., that kind of force in the Caribbean, and Grenada was child's play to what's at stake right now. What will happen to President Maduro and his ruling group is worrying.
Why? I'm just asking the question just for for edification. Why do you think? And a lot of reasons have been expounded. Why do you think that Mr. Trump is so interested in Maduro at this point?
Well, there are a number of things, Matt, a number of reasons. One of them being that the electoral process in Venezuela has not been so fair. And in this last election that was held a few months ago, it seems as though President Maduro lost the election, but would not concede power. And so that's the crux of the problem there. But then there's the larger interest of the United States to secure the oil resources of Venezuela. I mean, it doesn't take a blind man to see that. Venezuela has the largest oil deposit in the world. However, that oil is the heavy sulfur crude oil, which takes a lot more refining than where you have the light crude that Guyana has and Suriname has. Venezuela's oil is not as light as that. However, U.S. refineries are made to process the heavy sulfur crude of Venezuela. So that's not a big problem for the United States.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now the U.S. is looking at securing resources. We are at this stage in the world where there's a resource war going on between the United States and the Chinese. And there's the other related question of China's presence in the region. I think this is all larger than just Venezuela. There is that serious competition between China and the United States in the backyard of the US. And I think that all of this buildup is not just about Venezuela. I think the US is going to reassert its previous position coming from the 1800s of the Monroe Doctrine, that no other power should come in our region. So there's all of these pieces, Matt, that is worrying. Even Dominica should be worried because we have the large Chinese presence in Dominica building an airport.
And it can be said, Chris, it can be said too that we have a good relationship with China and Maduro. I mean, we've heard many officials in our government and, of course, across the region, including Mr. Gonzalez in St. Vincent, have been pro-Maduro. So what does that say about, the possibility of repercussions for us here in Dominica and maybe other Eastern Caribbean countries?
Well, Dominica has two problems that I think we need to zero in on. One is that it's clear that Dominica has been used as a transshipment point for drugs going into Europe. And you see that on, the police, you were at the press conference with the police when they said that they did a big haul.
$46 million. $46 million.
Right. that cocaine is not meant for Dominica. That cocaine is for Europe. And Dominica has been the transit point into France. And so that's a big, big concern right there. And it's not only the US that has military and naval forces in the Caribbean today. The French also have naval forces around the Saints and between Dominica and Guadeloupe. So there is also that. So Dominica seems to have been allowing transshipments going on and not doing much about it. So that puts us in the crosshairs. But also, the relationship with Maduro has been, you know that well. It has been going on since President Chavez government. So you see, the Trump administration is very hard-nosed and transactional, and they want certain outcomes, and they are going to use their military might to make everybody behave. So I would be worried. I mean, I'm worried for our country because we are in the crosshairs. So I think that this is a larger conflict than we realize, Matt, and I don't know, but I'm nervous about it. I've never been that nervous about our region. But we need to pay attention to what will unfold. And as I said, it's a matter of it could be weeks, but the U.S. is ready to strike any day now.
So you're agreeing with the former leaders who came together and wrote the statement in terms of looking for peace. We are a community of peace, countries of peace, and they stood by. They stood on the ground that everybody in the region is saying we should stand for peace, and you support that statement.
I totally support this initiative by the former prime ministers and presidents in the region. But I am not convinced that will deter the Trump administration, man. It would really be not in our best interest to say nothing, and to appeal for peace is the little that we can do. But in big power politics, might is right, and the U.S. is not going to listen to that. But it's worth doing. Because if we say nothing, the U.S. thinks that we all agree with that.
But do you
only Trinidad?
Yeah. Do you think our prime minister should make a statement as it relates to what's going on there in the region?
Well, I think he should continue to underscore that we are a zone of peace. But Matt, knowing how the U.S. has behaved from the Monroe Doctrine to now, the U.S. has intervened willy-nilly in this region. We remember what happened in the Dominican Republic in 1965. Remember what happened in Grenada in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Haiti, the U.S. has intervened as well. So we're just seeing a repeat of that pattern. And this time with a lot of weaponry that we have never seen before.
But that
is the most frightening part.
Tell me, Mr. Crispin, because you did say that the U.S. is very concerned about what happened with the elections there in Venezuela. Can you compare the two, compare and contrast what is happening in Venezuela and what is happening in Dominica re-elections? And do you think the U.S. is looking?
Oh, absolutely. The U.S. has been looking. And Matt, as early as 2019, with regards to Dominica's elections, at the OAS, the U.S. said that Dominica should not hold an election until it creates the framework for a free and fair process. That was ignored. I mean, and you remember that the then Foreign Minister, Ms. Francine Barron, went before the OAS and made a speech in defense of why Dominica felt it had done all it could for free and fair elections. Of course, let's be blunt about it. Dominica has not had a free and fair election since 2005. That's the reality. And now we're seeing that we're on the verge of another election, and after the opposition forces pushed the government for 15 years to finally do electoral reform. What came out of the electoral reform process is really not really a reform. It's just some new laws that have been passed that have now given the ruling party full advantage to not allow any change at the ballot. So where does that put us? That puts us in a very gray area. And I just hope we don't spiral out of control for instability, because now you have RSS on the island, maybe ostensibly to prepare for another election cycle. And, it worries me that the RSS is intervening in our country so often. And the Dominican people have never tried to counter the RSS, so we also in a very difficult situation. And this so-called electoral reform that the government did, that does not stand up to international scrutiny. I would like to see the international community really focus on Dominica and get the Dominican authorities to accept that they can't really manage a free and fair election process. So, Matt, we have some similarities with Venezuela, and the U.S. has certainly been watching this for some time. And I'll tell you one thing, that Secretary of State Rubio, we must not underestimate him. He knows a lot more about Dominica than we realize before he became Secretary of State. So, I'm very uneasy about all of what is unfolding. And I don't think that our administration is, well, they must be under the pressure of Mr. Trump.
Can you say is the storm before the calm before the storm at this time?
There is a calm. We are at the calm before the storm, man. We are at the calm before the storm. The storm is gathering. And Matt, I don't know, but I worry about the airport too. I like all Dominicans would like to see an international airport on Dominica. But I'll tell you one thing. That international airport is being built in the context where the US and Chinese rivalry is getting deeper in our region. And the fact that it is the Chinese that are building our airport, that's a big concern to the United States, I'll tell you that. They're not saying that publicly yet, but at some point in the near future, they will mention that airport as a security threat to the national interest.
Wow, interesting.
So let's be real about this thing. I'm a realist, and I've been studying China for a long time, for 50-something years. And I'll tell you, the Chinese have reached a point where they are a major rival of the United States, and it's going to play out in the Caribbean.
You think Mr. Skerrit should be very careful or cautious about statements he made re Venezuela, currently? You think he should be very careful?
Well, he is being careful. He is being careful. He's calling just for a zone of peace, but he's not defending Mr. Maduro like I thought, as some people expect him to do. He's in a balancing act, Matt, right now. He's really in a balancing act. And having been one of the closest allies of Mr. Maduro in the CARICOM, he has to worry about how the U.S. looks at him. I see some serious security imperatives at play right now, and I just hope that cooler heads prevail. But war is the drumbeat for war is beating hard, Matt, and
right on our doorsteps, yeah. Right on our doorsteps.
That is correct. That is correct.
Crispin Gregor, thank you very much. Thank you for your analysis there on the situation there. It's in the Caribbean region. Thank you. Of course, we have to keep monitoring because it's a situation that we are monitoring. We just, of course, picking up another report that the U.S. warships docks in Trinidad and Tobago as the escalation of the tensions escalates with Venezuela.
Since September. On Face the Nation yesterday, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said land strikes in Venezuela are a real possibility. Listen.
President Trump told me yesterday that he plans to brief members of Congress when he gets back from Asia about future potential military operations against Venezuela and Colombia. So there will be a congressional briefing about a potential expanding from the sea to the land.
CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House with more on this. Good morning, Natalie. What more do we know about this U.S. warship in the Caribbean and how the Venezuelan president is viewing it?
Yeah, this is a significant escalation in what was already a major military buildup by U.S. forces off the coast of Venezuela. This latest warship to deploy, the USS Gravely, now docked in the capital of Trinidad and Tobago. Both countries saying that it is there for the next few days for joint training exercises. But this comes on top of the deployment of the Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, to the region. A Pentagon spokesperson says the enhanced U.S. force presence will, quote, bolster U.S. capacity to deter, detect, monitor, and disrupt illicit actors in the president's directive to counter narco-terrorism. But Venezuela and President Maduro accused the U.S. government of trying to fabricate a, quote, new eternal war against his country. Now, as we've been reporting, the Trump administration considers the Maduro regime illegitimate, accuses them of being aligned with narco-terrorism. One U.S. senator who's been supportive of the administration holding Maduro accountable is Senator Rick Scott of Florida. He spoke to CBS's 60 Minutes. Take a listen.
If I was Maduro, I'd head to Russia or China right now.
Because
his days are numbered. Something's going to happen. Whether it's internal or external, I think something's going to happen.
Now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked in her most recent press briefing, is regime change on the president's mind? And she said that she didn't want to get ahead of him, but again reiterated that the administration will not tolerate what it calls narco-terrorists trafficking drugs into the U.S. As for these ongoing strikes that we've seen on alleged drug boats, Democratic lawmakers, even some Republicans, continue to say they need more information. Democrats condemning these strikes. And Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona on one of the Sunday shows over the weekend even called the strikes, quote, murder, Errol.
Right, Natalie Brand with the latest. Thank you, Natalie.
Well, the Venezuelans have condemned a provocation by the CIA and Trinidad and Tobago as these tensions continue to run high. Listen.
Training with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. The U.S.
From the top, let's go.
United States and Trinidad and Tobago are carrying out joint military exercises in the Caribbean. This follows the arrival of the U.S. Navy destroyer USS Gravely in Port of Spain on Sunday for training with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. The U.S. Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago said in a statement that the ship would moor in Port of Spain until October 30 as, quote, part of the long-standing cooperation between the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. Venezuela on Sunday condemned the exercises as a military provocation by neighboring Trinidad and Tobago, coordinated with the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency and aimed at spurring a full military confrontation with the Latin American nation. Venezuelan officials said they had captured a group of mercenaries with, quote, direct information of the American Intelligence Agency, whose goal was to carry out a false flag attack in the region. A false flag attack is an operation in which an act is carried out so a different party appears responsible. Venezuela's government did not provide further details or evidence for the accusations. The U.S. State Department and the CIA were not immediately available for comment.
They authorized me for two reasons, really.
Earlier this month, U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed reports that he authorized the CIA to carry out covert operations in Venezuela. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has previously accused the U.S. of plotting false flag attacks, including an alleged plan targeting the U.S. Embassy in Caracas. Trump has carried out a number of strikes on boats in the Caribbean and Pacific that the administration claims are trafficking drugs. This has raised U.S. tensions with Venezuela and Colombia.
All right, Dominique, I told you it's continuing. It's getting, more tense at this time. Venezuelans also have been reacting to, of course, the news on 60 Minutes.
Overtime. Our story this week is about the relationship between U.S. and Venezuela in this moment, and we had the rare opportunity to go inside Venezuela and hear from people there about the threat of invasion or perhaps regime change in their country.
What does it feel like you're something's about to happen? ¿Sientes que algo va a pasar?
Bueno, uno se pone nervioso, uno se pone desesperado.
One person gets nervous, gets anxious.
No queremos que pase nada.
We don't want anything to happen.
Since September, the U.S. military has struck vessels in the Caribbean, killing people. And they say that's all part of an anti-narcotics mission.
And a lot of the Venezuelan drugs come in through the sea, so you get to see that. But we're going to stop them by land also.
There is a tremendous amount of U.S. military force in the Caribbean. It's unprecedented. They've got 8 warships and 10,000 troops standing by. And so the question is why? And observers believe the real target here is Nicolas Maduro, the dictator / president of Venezuela.
When was the last time you were in Venezuela?
We spoke to Florida Senator Rick Scott. He counts many Venezuelans among his political constituents.
Is this about anti-narcotics or is this about removing Maduro?
Well, I think it's primarily about narco, all the drugs coming in. I'm glad Trump's doing what he's doing. And I do hope Maduro's out of power. I mean, I want him gone.
James Story is the former ambassador to Venezuela, and he served under President Trump's first term and under President Biden.
The assets are there to do everything up to and including decapitation of government. Now, has a decision been made? That I don't know. But it looks increasingly like some action may take place.
Jenny, you all right?
I worked on the story with producer Michael Karzis.
Maduro government granted us a rare visa to go with the intention and understanding that we were going to do an interview with President Maduro. And we went down there and we got the call to go to the basement of this hotel and be ready for the interview. And at the last minute, the defense minister and President Maduro's chief intelligence officer called the interview off because of safety concerns.
So we reset. Said, okay, what are we going to do? What can we go see? Let's go talk to people. We went to a market in Caracas. It was very busy. When we were at the market, we'd ask people questions and they'd kind of back off, and they're nervous that somebody's listening from the regime.
No me gusta hablar del gobierno porque no voy a favor del gobierno. No toco esos temas. No voy a favor, voy a en contra. Porque yo quisiera de que este mundo cambiara para yo poder tener un buen futuro.
What happens if somebody speaks out against the government?
Pues no sería que estén nerviosos en hablar contra el gobierno. 3 días antes de la votación te mandan un bono para que tú votes, o sea, igual al gobierno.
A lot of people were very fearful about the large military presence off the coast.
Sí, me da miedo. Bueno, miedo en el sentido porque yo tengo hijos, tengo nietos, tengo a mi madre viva. Y me da mucho miedo que vayan a bombardear Venezuela sin motivo alguno.
And we'd also ask them, what would happen if President Maduro was removed?
What do you think would happen if President Maduro was removed from office?
Venezuela cambiara y todos fuéramos libres y
do you think President Maduro could be removed?
Bueno, si es necesario,
If that's necessary?
si van a poner otro mejor,
If they're going to put someone better?
deberían.
They should.
And then there was a gentleman, and he interrupted our interview and said, "We're a sovereign nation, so butt out."
Bueno, que es un abuso totalmente de los norteamericanos. Nosotros estamos en un país soberano.
Cada país debe ocuparse de su problema político de ellos, interno. Bueno, Venezuela se ocupará su presidente de Venezuela. Que lo que no estoy de acuerdo es que un presidente tenga que venir a intervenir o opinar sobre cómo se debe manejar el país. No debería.
Without exception, they all said Venezuela is not a narco-terror state.
The President of the United States says that this is a narco-terror state. What do you say?
No, eso es mentira.
Bueno, aquí realmente nunca hemos tenido cultivos de droga. Aquí nosotros vivimos del petróleo. El venezolano no tiene necesidad, el país de Venezuela no tiene necesidad de cultivar droga. ¿Por qué? Porque nosotros somos un país petrolero en potencia. Nunca ha habido cultivos de droga.
The vast majority of Venezuelans live below the poverty line. Electricity is not reliable. Water, clean water is not reliable. Food shortages are ever present. Salaries are ridiculously low because inflation is so high. There's a reason why 8 million people decided to leave over the last 10 years.
Si no, él no sale, yo por lo menos tuviera mis planes en enero en irme, abandonar mi país si yo no quisiera, se va a ir en enero. Sí. Si Venezuela cambiara, yo me quedaría aquí en Venezuela. Aquí lo que uno trabaja es para día a día. $50 es lo que a ti te pagan semanal. No te cuesta ni para pagarte un arriendo, ni para tú ayudar a tu familia, ni costearte tú.
If President Maduro is removed from office, what will happen in Venezuela?
Como ha pasado en todas las veces anteriores que se eligió un otro gobierno y por democracia normal.
Y el pueblo de los Estados Unidos lo sabe. Se están inventando una nueva guerra eterna.
There's 3 ways this can go, according to a lot of the people that we spoke to, which is he packs his bags and leaves, or he's picked up. There's this big bounty for his arrest, so he could be picked up. That's number 2. Or he can meet his maker. It's not a question of if, but a question of when.
It's not a question of if, but when.
September 6th.
You see what I was telling you? It's eminent, eminence, and many listeners out there. 15 million bounty placed on the head of Maduro at this point. On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes?
Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Matt, regime changed. Regime change. Why is there narco-terrorism? Matt, Venezuela has the biggest deposit of oil. You think it's not the oil? How many times does the CIA have to run the script? By now, everybody on the planet should know that they're after your oil and your resources. And let's be fair, Matt. How different is Maduro from Trump? Think about it, people. They're 2 dictators. They're both the same. Trump had his revolution. He wanted to stay there, even when he lost the election.
Well, while you say that, I just said in the interview, I mean, a few people have been interviewed, they said that Venezuela is not a drug country. So you see, we have different perspectives as well, huh? People on the ground.
Yes, Matt. Yes, but the point is that we've seen the script before. Iran. We've seen it in Iran. The CIA has been doing this over and over, invading countries to take their resources. You remember how sore Trump was? Trump, even when he was not even a presidential candidate, oh, you went to Iran, you went to Iraq, and you didn't take the oil. Trump was so angry about that. You remember that, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
He was so angry because they went there, all the soldiers died, and they didn't take the oil. They fabricated this story about, nuclear, this and that. Fabricated stories. The whole world knows about that. So it's just a repetition coming to steal the resources of a sovereign country by bullying.
But do you think if you support democracy, do you think Maduro should go?
Yes, that's why I said there's no difference between Maduro and Trump. Trump should go. There's no difference.
You have not said Maduro should go. You're placing emphasis more on Trump.
No, both of them, Matt.
Okay, now I get you.
And here's the point. Trump wants to start a war because he doesn't want to face another election. He wants to be there forever. And that was the excuse that Zelensky had. They asked Zelensky, how come you're not having elections? He said, we're in the middle of a war. As soon as Trump heard that, a light bulb went off in Trump's head. So now he's picking on somebody he believes is not very strong so that he can have a war with them and not have elections himself.
All right, again, it's your opinion. I have to respect that. Somebody says, Matt, I support regime change in Venezuela. Maduro should jump ship now. His days are numbered. Hello, talk to me, yes.
Hey, Matt, what's going on, man?
My brother, how you doing? What's your views?
You know, I fed up of hearing Clem just come and talk nonsense he doesn't know about. America has the greatest form, purest form of democracy, and it will be there after Trump. I, for one, support raising change in Venezuela, 100%. If he's a guy that suppresses the opposition, he steals the election, he needs to go. Any means necessary. So tell this guy, keep talking everything about Trump. Trump's going to be there for the next 4 years. Nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it, and he's not above the law.
So you say
I support regime change.
So you say Maduro should go?
Oh, yes, 100% that guy got to go. And he knows it, so you can see it in his eyes. He knows he's going to go. He has a choice. You see the guy gave him a choice, take his bag and fight to China and Russia. And he'll be all right. Let Venezuela breathe. 8 million people over the 10 years have left your country. You don't think something is wrong? And the Caribbean leader that support him doesn't see that something wrong with such a country? Impossible. I wonder, I heard your guy, the Dimple Bandits talking talking about peace in the region. The Dimple Bandit talking about peace in the Caribbean. Why for a simple demonstration you have RSS coming and you're talking about peace? He's a hypocrite. Anyway, man, I'm listening to your show.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Another big Republican supporting Trump. And he moves there. Well, it appears that a lot of Caribbean countries are staying away from making any comments as this situation, this crisis heightens between Venezuela and the U.S. All they've been saying is that the region should be a zone of peace. I think the Prime Minister also said that Barbados and the wider Caribbean are offering themselves as intermediaries or to bring officials of the U.S. and Venezuela together. Garrett made the statement yesterday when he addressed the second day of the Barbados Labour Party 2-day conference in Bridgetown. Hello, talk to me, yes, in the afternoon. Yes,
Hey, Mr. Peltier, blessings to you.
Blessings to you, sir.
Not no press parler parce que tout le monde a attaqué ou parler. I almost don't want to talk because when I talk, when people talk, people like to attack them. Clem said nothing wrong, Matt. If a man cannot see Trump, he should not see Skerrit. If you cannot see Benjamin Netanyahu, that man of the place they calling Israel, it's the same predicament in which he's in. He therefore embezzlement, money laundering and everything, and no elections. The people want to get rid of him. So every time, if you think he's giving peace, it's more war. So Volodymyr Zelensky is in the same predicament. So Maduro is in the same predicament, and Trump is a dictator. Matt, are you following what is happening in your second home, Matt?
I'm following.
Okay, if you say you following, I respect that, Matt. Trump wants to remain there indefinitely because, he cannot run another election. Not something closer to shore. All these Caribbean leaders, Matt, do you know they have plumbers busy, Matt? Putting a toilet in every room in their home and in parliament because they want more toilet. Matt, their stomach is working. They're getting loose, boys.
I'm wondering. Help me, blessings. Let's stick to the subject. Maybe you have a puzzle out there. I need to get back to the subject. So let's stick to that. Where are you heading with this one?
Are we not talking about what's happening in Venezuela and
Yes, I'm telling you to make the reference there so we can move on.
You always want to shoo me off your program. Listen.
I'm not. I'm telling you. Let's solve that puzzle and we'll move on. I'm not saying you're talking about toilets and everything else. I'm saying let's solve the problem and move on. I'm not shooing you off. I'm trying to get an interaction.
Matthew just said these Caribbean leaders only talking about zone of peace. What you want them to do when they're living on the edge? They're living on the knife's edge, Matt. They're afraid, Matt. Foul sweat. They're afraid. Some saying it's loose bowel they're suffering from, like they take blue cracks or something. So listen to me, and even the caller that called talking about Clem. Clem makes perfect sense to me. I respect the brother. He did not get it. I am saying, Matt, as much as I would want Maduro to go because I'm hearing about the corruption, I cannot say it is 100 or 1,000% or whatever it is, but there seems to be some merit because listen to the opposition and you will hear the side of the story. Isn't that so, Matt?
I agree.
Listen to his supporters, you will get a different side of the story. In Dominica, it happens. You have millions of people protesting, hundreds of thousands of people protesting in that place they call in Israel against Benjamin Netanyahu. There are people that are supporting him. In Dominica, labor rights are supporting him. I mean, people that are fanatical and have very poor understanding, some of them. People that are just looking for the profit, the pocket, the passport wheelers and dealers and other people. So I am saying that these dictators' days are numbered. But you know what I like, Matt? Can you imagine, Matt, a dictator trying to get rid of a dictator? Mike is right, Skerrit, Maduro. Why is the other one named Hitler in Antigua, the Gaston Brung? You know, it's Hitler moustache and Gaston Brung moustache, Matt. You don't think they're looking alike? So all the dictators in the region, Matt, that want to remain there indefinitely, secretly consolidating, talking about regional travel and unity and talking all the foolishness in the machination, Matt. I want Trump, the dictator, to get rid of these dictators. Thank you.
All right, someone like you that, a lot of your text messages say, well, we have our own dictator. That's what somebody suggested. The tensions out there in Venezuela, the U.S., Trinidad. Someone says, Matt, Americans are not like Dominicans. Americans will have elections in 2028. Another person says, Maduro must go. Maduro should demand that his allies and his Alba allies send the RSS to help save him. But look, kicks on these dictators there. Huh? As I said, some leaders are now offering their help to bring peace. So we are now a zone of peace. So Mr. Skerritt and of course the leader in Barbados and other Caribbean leaders are now saying, let's see them talk. For the next few minutes, we'll be talking about the own confirmation process. In a little minute there. Hello, talk to me on the telephone. Yes, please.
It's not what we want Trump to do. When he finishes Venezuela and pass by Dominica, because we have the same problem. Venezuela, Maduro lost election and he installed himself there as president. If it's corrupt regime, we have the same thing here. Trump, we need you to come here because we have an election and the whole both sides never win an election since after 2005. Trump passing Dominica. Please do what you have to do to take out that world boss there. Bye-bye.
Blue, be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. 158. But as I heard from the seasoned diplomat, we in Dominica have to be very careful, huh? On the telephone, yes, so we've got to go though in a little while. Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Today with all them leaders is just a whole bunch of hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy?
Whereas Maduro might be a dictator for sure, like the previous two callers, Blessings and the Clem guy. What they're saying, they're totally correct because Trump himself is a dictator. America said that's what they run on, dictating to everybody.
Well, at least, I mean, get my point. At least we have elections in the United States every 4 years. Would you agree?
Now, whether there are elections or not, that's what these people do. They dictate to everybody. They've been doing that from time immemorial. That's not a new thing. America been dictating to people from a long time. And if Venezuela didn't have oil, they would not be so adamant in wanting to go to Venezuela. You understand what I'm telling you? Because even Bush himself, okay, even Bush back in the day said America is addicted to oil. Wherever oil is, that's where they will go. You understand me? And even the Caribbean leaders, even them talking about like peace and zone of peace and everything, all of them are just a bunch of hypocrites. You understand? It's just because they do not have the firepower to go to Venezuela and they are scared. They are afraid that they cannot go to Venezuela and fight against the Americans. They're talking about a zone of peace.
Oh, you mean the leaders from the Caribbean you're talking about? You're saying they're afraid. I thought you were talking about the Americans.
I tell you, well, I'm trying to get the relation in what, try to get what I'm trying to tell you.
No, I'm understanding you, but you're saying they're afraid, so I wonder who is afraid.
So listen to what I'm saying.
Yes.
And you get me to what I'm saying. If you don't listen, you cannot get what I'm trying to say.
Go ahead.
You understand? I'm trying to speak quickly. I'm trying to condense everything and try to speak quickly so another person can get a chance to speak. So I'm saying is, they are afraid, so they're talking about a zone of peace. I was talking about America and the hypocrisy. Remember, I began by saying it's just a whole bunch of hypocrisy with those leaders around the world, including the Caribbean. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand.
When it suits them, it's okay. When it doesn't suit them, then it's something else. So, for example, with our situation in Dominica, RS has been coming to Dominica on many occasions to fight against us, the people. You understand? We know what Salisbury people suffered. We know what's been happening. You understand? What I'm saying is, the regional government, the RSS people, they do not have the firepower to go to Venezuela. So the leaders are now saying we are a zone of peace. Whereas they never thought before that we were a zone of peace for them not to send RSS on us in Dominica. You understand? Because we've been fighting basically the same situation, the same problem, which is this election kind of a thing, where we've been saying that the elections are not fair, the elections are not straight, because it was said by the people that came to observe the elections that the elections was free, but it wasn't necessarily fair. We've heard it before. You understand? So it's nothing new. It's not something we're just making up in our heads. And if we're true and righteous, and we want to say we are true and righteous and a Christian nation, we have to be straight with everything, my brother. You understand? So I'm saying is all these governments, they are the same. Trump, every single one of them, because Trump, when he lost the election back in the day, when Biden came into power in January 6 some years ago, He was trying to stay there and to fight. You understand? He didn't want to give up on power. You understand? So all these people are just behind power. And what I'm saying with America is, if it wasn't for the oil, even if they're trying to say Maduro is a dictator or whatever the case is, if it wasn't for the oil, my brother, they would not want to go, or they would not be so pressed to go to Venezuela as it is right now. It's because of the oil. You understand? And we have to understand that. And until we understand those things, we'll just be going in circles.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, let's listen to the Prime Minister when he spoke in Barbados yesterday on Maduro. Let's listen to the Prime Minister.
This Caribbean must continue to be a zone of peace. We do not want any wars in our region. We solve problems by discussion, by dialogue, with diplomacy, and we sometimes have to agree to disagree, but we must do so peacefully and in respect for each other. Because if a war breaks out in the Caribbean, we will have some serious challenges in our respective countries. And we have an opportunity to prevent this from happening by adding our voices, that reason prevail and common sense come to our being, and let us work out our problems together. And of course, we in Barbados and Dominica, and indeed the wider Caribbean, offer ourselves as intermediators so that we can bring the two forces together. And let us understand that there can be common sense and agreement and disagreement. But we have to ensure that we do not have a situation of our region descending into turmoil. We have to speak to this. And I thank the Prime Minister for her wonderful and strong message yesterday to the Barbados Labour Party and indeed the entire world.
All right, you heard the Prime Minister. Let's continue to make the region zone of peace. We have Mr. Joshua Francis to speak of our own situation in Dominica as it relates to the reconfirmation process and more. But we'll take a few calls and we'll speak to Mr. Joshua Francis. The telephones are burning now. Hello, talk to me. You heard your Prime Minister. Let's intervene. And yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Yes.
Matt, I'm hearing everybody talking about the fact that America wants the oil in Venezuela, and some have even alluded to the fact that the refining situation that America has can deal with the heavy sulfur, whatever that the oil in Venezuela has, and speaking very little about the fentanyl, the cocaine, and everything like that that's reaching to America from Venezuela. Nobody's really speaking about that, because up to last night I was looking at something where they got some in Texas, they got some places where they have $300 million worth of cocaine and fentanyl and $200 and something million US in that place, in that apartment complex, man. So nobody's talking about that. America is worried about the amount of cocaine that is reaching to America, right? So they have to try to neutralize where that is coming from so that it will stop. But everybody's worried about the oil. The oil, yes, might be one of these things that maybe they're going for. But the fentanyl that is coming there and the cocaine that reached Dominica sometime ago and St. Vincent, as a friend of mine said, it passed Trinidad, it passed Grenada, it passed Barbados, and so it ended up in St. Vincent and Dominica, right? So we now need to be very careful how we speak, right? Because that is something that can really affect us negatively, because it can come to Dominica and be transshipped to different points. So this is one of these things we need to look at. How America is being affected by the fentanyl, the cocaine, and so on coming from Venezuela. Good afternoon, sir.
All right, good afternoon. Yes, it's 2:06 in the afternoon. Let's take a phone call. Well, we don't have too much time. Yes, go ahead, sir.
No, quickly, Matt, I'll be fast. Matt, what I am saying, I said it last week, and somebody's saying it this week. Matt, if you do an investigation, I don't want you to go, but somebody else, and find out from Chavez to Maduro how much millions and millions of dollars Dominica has benefited. Matt, it's time for Maduro to call on Dominica and the other countries they give millions of dollars to stand with Venezuela, not in talk, But Dominica police officers that always dress up in military fatigue and have the nasty kind of assault military.
Blessings, hold on. You just said the Prime Minister saying they want peace. So do you expect him to, of course, initiate the RSS, if you will, to go to Venezuela? He says the region is one of peace.
But have you listened to Skerrit and observed Skerrit? He and Tony Actafan framing Lennox Lincoln to jail him, accuse them of trying to overthrow his government. This is war. All the nastiness he has been doing in Dominica for years, Matt, this is war. So no, he cannot go in Barbados because he find an opponent that is more bad than him and talk about diplomacy and peace. Now it's time to stand up, you big bad wolf, and tell America they cannot invade Venezuela because we say it's a country of peace. If not, well, we'll all have to go to war. Thank you.
That's it. We're going to take one final call and we'll, of course, close the debate on this Venezuela, Trinidad, U.S. war pending. It appears it's on our doorsteps. Let's see what happens. Hello, talk to me, yes?
Matt,
Uh-huh.
when Venezuela was attempting to attack, and no one of them say nothing. So let Venezuela can see what I mean to us in Dominica. Keep the defense. And we know see what they do to such people. There's peace that hypocrite we have in Dominica there is Ninex.
Hey, be careful. Be careful. I apologize on your behalf. All right, what's that say this afternoon? I'm sure you'll share his 2 pence. Is Mr. Joshua Francis, because the lines are going burning here. Mr. Francis, of course, there's a war pending, I say, between Venezuela and the U.S. They're very concerned about the non-democratic process is taking place. And we've all heard that the opposition won in Venezuela, but Maduro doesn't seem want to give up on the power. And you hear other stories as to maybe the America is going in for war or for oil. Different versions. It depends on who you talk to. What's your take on the situation now? The leaders in the Caribbean are saying, well, we don't want war. This is a peace zone. I even heard Mr. Ellison James talking about the former leader saying, let's keep peace in the Caribbean. Your viewpoint there.
Good afternoon, Matt.
It's a wide one, huh?
Good afternoon to your listeners.
Good afternoon.
Happy Independence.
Same here, sir. Same here.
Simensa c'est
Junior Creole.
C'est pas Junior Creole. Junior Creole c'est Mercredi.
Mercredi or
Vadwidi. That's Friday.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So what do you say for the whole week Independence Creole? Simensa c'est or Simen Creole?
Oui.
Bon, so we are celebrating
Independence, yes.
Independence.
Oui,
so I hope your listeners are having a good Creole season. You know, eating all the Creole foods.
Have you been eating the Creole food?
I've had some. I don't think I've had enough. I'm looking forward to have some more during the season. You know, the festive season. I hope we get an opportunity to make an analysis of the World Music Creole Festival, what it meant for Dominica, whether it's really an economic viable venture where people are benefiting. But to answer your question, Matt, on this Venezuela situation, you'd have to understand why it is important for Dominica, because it's not just about diplomacy, but it's about finance. It's about the economic relationship that we have with Venezuela. In spite of the political instability as it appears in Venezuela, we benefit from Venezuela through the Petro-Caribe agreement. I don't know how efficient the agreement has been executed now, as it were, especially when Chavez was here. You know, we were beneficiaries from the Venezuelan government. I don't know to what extent that we are benefiting now, but there are economic implications for Dominica and for those who are signatories to the ALBA agreement. So that's one, and of course, diplomacy. That is of concern. Now, we have to understand what's happening in Venezuela. As you said, currently, Donald Trump's administration appears to be in a situation where they may attack Venezuela, whether internally, whether through economic means and military means, whether they're intimidating the Maduro's administration, hoping that the opposition will step up and the people will overthrow, or the military will eventually decide they do not want Maduro.
But the last election, Joshua, you're following international events. The last election, it appears that the opposition won, but they're accusing Maduro of stealing that election.
Well, yes, you have to take that in context. As a matter of fact, the United States and several European countries do not recognize Maduro as the president of Venezuela. They recognize the opposition leader as the president. But in reality and practically, we know that Maduro continues to run things. A matter of fact, earlier this year, I think in May, the opposition boycotted some parliamentary election, and that further consolidated Maduro's rule. So you have to contextualize what's happening in Venezuela. You're looking at an administration, the Trump administration, which had already attempted to get rid of Maduro and his regime in Trump's first term. So to Donald Trump, possibly he may be seen an unfinished business in Venezuela.
He's actually placed a 15 million bounty on this guy.
Right. So because right now the ground on which the United States is acting is on the basis that Maduro facilitates drug cartels. He houses them, he protects them, and in some cases, he's being accused that Maduro himself has been part of drug cartels. So the United States of America is currently on a venture where they're using narco-terrorism as the basis for interfering into Venezuela's business. So now that's where the debate comes in, whether what they're doing contravenes the Articles of United Nations of non-intervention into a country's sovereignty, because in some people's view, what the United States is doing is interfering with Venezuela's sovereignty. The United States now will come back and say, no, we're protecting our citizens. We have the drug cartels which are being housed in Venezuela, and Venezuela is a main supplier of cocaine, particularly to the United States. And we have been asking the Venezuelan authorities, just as we have asked the Colombian authorities and other countries in South America, to put a hold, to do some things to curb this drug trafficking. So we are not getting proper response. We're going to do it ourselves. So as you pointed out, some people think that America is using that as justification to really go in there, maybe to topple Maduro's regime, and then to get these American companies to go in during the stabilization process and to take over oil companies. And maybe it's for economic benefits. Maybe it's a combination of economic benefits and genuine concerns about narcotics being transported to the United States from Venezuela. And thirdly, maybe it's an American ego thing that, yeah, it is Maduro, who is not recognized by the United States administration, continues to consolidate his power. So we're going there hoping that either intimidation works, where there's an implosion within Venezuela, the army steps up.
I'm actually hearing a lot of the American policymakers, of course, in the Senate saying Maduro should take the opportunity to fly to Russia or China this time, because it appears that it's really imminent that they're coming in for him.
Well, from what we are seeing, that may be the case, because I think that the United States discharged its largest
2 warships.
Yeah, 2 warships, including its largest, which would be indicative that something may be happening beyond just intimidation. And then I think there's a special branch of their military that has been discharged, the Night Hawks, however they're called. These are the guys who actually brought down Saddam Hussein, and they went to several African countries to carry out secret missions. So some people are looking to see what's happening, whether there's going to be an outright attack on the Venezuela army, or there's going to be an internal attack where
like we saw against this guy, what's his name? The big terror.
Saddam Hussein?
No, Saddam Hussein.
Gaddafi?
No.
Osama bin Laden?
That's it.
Right.
They're going to get him secretly.
Right. So these are the Black Hawks and the Night Hawks, however they are called. Some of them have already been discharged on these fleets and watching what's happening. So even as we speak, some intelligence are in play, logistics are being put in place. So it would not be surprising if eventually Maduro is toppled. And, you know, it is very reasonable for your callers to weigh in on this and to call our leaders hypocrites, because really, Matt, in 2024, July 2024, when this presidential election was held in Venezuela, did we hear these leaders? Did any of these leaders weigh in on the election results? Did they have the moral authority?
And most of them basically congratulated
Maduro. So here we go. They congratulated Maduro, paid no regard to the process which was held in Venezuela. And some of them would have known there was a controversy. The people of Venezuela, the vast majority of Venezuelans, voted for the opposition leader and rejected Maduro, according to news reports. And if that is true, one would have thought that these leaders who seem to be saying they're standing on pillars of integrity, they want peace, they want freedom.
There's a hypocrisy there.
Yeah, but you see, that is how geopolitics work. And hence the reason why some people are very distrustful of politicians, because sometimes we say one thing out of convenience, and another time we say something else.
You're blowing,
and it's the issue.
you're blowing hot and cold.
Right. So maybe that's happening within the region right now. And I think our concern should be beyond Maduro. We should look at the ordinary citizens in Venezuela. I think that's where our focus should be. And if the ordinary citizens who have a right to decide, the government would have said, we do not want you, Maduro. And from 2024 to now, they have plummeted into further economic poverty. I think that is, for me, that's where my focus is. I am a man who believes in democracy, majority rules, and if the majority of people wants a regime change, it should happen.
But now they're saying, let's talk to America, let's talk to Venezuela to see if we can bring both sides together and listen to what quote unquote common sense. You just heard the Prime Minister,
right?
And that,
right.
that audio.
Well, there's nothing wrong. I mean, every sensible and right-thinking leader wants peace. But there's also a saying, there should be no peace without justice. And I think that's what's happening in places like Dominica. A lot of us, we just maintain the status quo. We are seeing the wrongs, we are seeing the corruption, we are seeing the misfits, we are seeing the inefficiencies, the incompetencies, the failures throughout for the last 25 years. And of course, we have seen some positive things, but we have played a blind eye to the wrong thing simply because in the minds and utterances of some people, peace is better than war. So when we call on Dominicans to stand up against the regime, for whatever reason, a number of people may not show up because in their minds, God tell them to have peace. But it all depends on how you define peace, because I don't understand how people can be oppressed, particularly financially. They're in their 30s, 40s, 50s and going. They do not have any savings. They don't have a title for a house. In worst case scenarios is where somebody in his 50s and still living at his parents' home, and he has no money in the bank, and his children are being victimized. He's being oppressed in many different ways, and he refuses to stand up for his own interests and his rights on the ground that he's seeking peace. Matt, the word peace sometimes is misused. There are times when people have to agitate and people have to force change. Historically, we have seen societies evolve, not just by logistics and technocrats, but by force, and in some cases by death. If you look at China's history, where China is today came with a lot of blood in its history. By no means I am advocating for blood in Dominica. But the point I'm trying to make, if Dominicans want certain changes, there may be a time, and history has shown that people have to stand up and be militant. 1979, we saw it here. And by no means, again, I am saying that we need to overthrow this government. I am saying that Dominicans should be outraged that we have had a government for the last 25 years that has failed the barefoot man. We have seen an increase in dependency, the erosion of the middle class. In some people's minds, we do not have a middle class anymore. The rural economy is almost non-existent. Matt, even over the past few days with the World Music Creole Festival, all the economic activities surrounding the World Music Creole Festival was in Roseau and its periphery. The rural places got no benefit. There was nobody going to Castle Bruce to rent a place. So there was no such thing as rental arrangements and guest benefit. That did not exist. No activities in the rural places. So that is the kind of discussion that we have to put on the table. And when we do that and we do it objectively, we'll come to the realization that our leader has failed in so many respects. So going to Barbados and making those type of utterances, nobody should take that seriously. And for those Christians who are out there talking about truth and peace and righteousness, let's analyze that deeply. Because you cannot tell me something went wrong in Venezuela. A man is ruling over a nation where the majority of people said, no, we do not want you. And he continues to rule.
And we said nothing.
And we said nothing. And our justification is that we should not interfere. But even the exercise of going to Barbados is interfering, because he would have gone up there and made certain comments. And likewise, she came here and made certain comments. And we had this gentleman from St. Vincent recently coming to Dominica and telling Dominicans to vote for the Dominican Labour Party right in our face. But some of us are so caught up with distractions. We do it at our own peril and our own expense. We are suffering. Our children are not going anywhere. And we just allow the status quo. And that is why I'm here. I mean, Matt, I have work to do. I have things to do. But I'm hearing the complaints. People are saying, Josh, you know what is happening? We need to have a change of government. But for a change of government to happen, we need leaders and we need hard work. I make the sacrifice. I come here, give an hour, 2 hours. Not that I don't have things to do. I have things to do in my own personal interests. But right now, the country seems to be crying for leaders. But when the leaders appear, sometimes they get demoralized for several reasons. Division, lack of funding, a lack of support. So Dominicans need to know what they really want, because if we don't put our act together, this country will just continue plummeting.
Hello on the telephone. Yes, telephone call. Are you there, caller?
First, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to my Kainago brother, Joshua Francis.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Come out, cafe.
My brother. Well,
Hola.
I expect an intellectual like you to lay down for us. Spot on. I agree with you 100% there. But let me tell Matt, 100% agree with you. Let me tell Matt. But first, I'll say by the end of November to early December, Maduro will have been a goner. It is too little, too late by the Caribbean leaders. They should have been speaking when Maduro stole the election the last time, and he has been oppressing his people now for years. The Americans are not blind, And I must congratulate my Kainago brother as well at Goodwill, who had his spot on as well. When you see Maduro is gone, the lady who got the Nobel Prize recently is going to be installed as the leader of Venezuela. And she and Trump are going to do business. The oil in Venezuela plays a big factor as well in the invasion of Venezuela, if you like, because Trump is not stupid. But my point is, Matt, we had enough time, enough years to actually take umbrage with Maduro, tell him what he's doing is wrong. We never spoke. Now the leaders are coming about peace. My brother, it's too late for that, The Americans would not have moved so much hardware in the Caribbean Sea if they're not going to attack Venezuela. So I tell you, Matt, by the end of November to middle of December, Maduro will have gone and a new government will have been installed and things will be different. But let me once again, before I end, congratulate Joshua Francis. I hardly disagree with the brother, but not because he's Kalinago, Matt. It's because he's smart, Guys like him are intellectuals, and they can extrapolate fact from fiction. So he's spot on what he's been saying. And let me again congratulate the Kalinago brother from Goodwill, who talked about Trump with the oil in Venezuela. He's spot on. You can actually read the tea leaves very well. So he's spot on when he says that when Trump goes in there, the oil factor will play a big part with America. Gentlemen, nice to
Thank you.
Thank
you. We're going to take a break. The telephone calls are going crazy here, but taking a break, we'll come right back, Dominica. Stick around.
We move at a different pace. All we need is to be supported. Cause when the baby's coming, business needs revamping, the new job started, and you need an outfit. Let momentum hook you up. Momentum will hook you up. The wedding's planning, due dates coming. Momentum is your support financing. Let momentum hook you up. Momentum will hook you up.
Take advantage of NCCU's Momentum Loan and get the support you need for whatever stage you are in life with a tiered interest rate and exclusive emergency fund component. Let NCCU's Momentum hook you up. Call 255-2126. Email membercare@nccudominica.com or visit any NCCU location for more details. Your phase, your pace, our support.
Monsieur, autre nouvelle qui nous pour confirmer pour nous savoir. Oui, confirmation pour l'élection commencer. Pour ça, allez à l'office élection en Liwan et mettez au monde qui registre pour vote en même polling station et puis pour ça servir au témoin. Et là, on va venir mener en carte d'identité saoudien ou ni en déshabilité. Pas mêlé. Il y a un officier qui est venu au tir pour information. Confirmation, c'est le 15 octobre 2025 et qu'a dit Yonani. Pour plus d'informations, qui est 617-9595. eh bien, suivre l'office élection à son média social. Pour ça, allez confirmer la même.
Hey, all you, I just meet Goldwyn in Roseau again. Same place outside Flossies. I tried to dock in, but you had time to see me. Well, story start again. Million, lot of my power with us, huh? Saka fella, I said the same thing you doing, shopping at Flossies. And you don't have to tell me the same thing you tell me last time because I busy. It's to hear him way. You reckon? About my pocket boy. I won't tell you that I save money in food and drinks when I buy quantity. I save more. Oh, shucks, man. Goldwyn, you're still telling me. I know already. The pocket I spent him, why? Would I get him up here for Palais? I will tell all my friends from London, US and Dominica to come to Flossies, right next to the Rosa Market. Open Sunday to Saturday. Flossies can't do it to you.
If you know your favorite store.
I know somebody could send me, I have a lot of producers out there. Somebody could send me a reminder of what our reaction, our prime minister's reaction was when Venezuela had their last election. Listen.
As you have been hearing, Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett was among Caribbean leaders on Monday who congratulated Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on his re-election. Scarrett offered his congratulations at the sidelines of the CARICOM summit in St. George's on Monday.
Well, as far as I've seen, the entity which oversees and governs the elections in Venezuela has indicated that President Maduro and his party have been re-elected for another 6-year term in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. And therefore, we extend our congratulations, as we do in all elections anywhere in the world. Our congratulations to President Maduro on his re-election. We look forward to working with him for the next 6 years on a bilateral and multilateral basis. Venezuela continues to be a very important player in the hemisphere from a number of vantage points. And we congratulate the Venezuelan people for conducting themselves in a largely peaceful and event-free election process. And I think democracy will continue to reign. And my hope and prayer is that we can all respect the results and continue to work with Venezuela and its people and on its own, overcoming its own challenges, and of course working on addressing global issues. And so we, from Dominica's standpoint, extend our congratulations to President Maduro.
Do you think that CARICOM will look at the whole question of what happened, given the fact that in some instances you have the United Kingdom, you have the United States talking about transparency and free and fair elections didn't take place?
I mean, in every country you'll have this issue of free and fair elections and who won and who hasn't won. I mean, you had that in the United States a few years ago. Even today, that there are millions of Americans who believe that President Biden did not win. We believe that President Biden won. We believe that there were free and fair elections in the United States. And I think that, you see, there's a growing phenomenon among opposition parties who seem to have some kind of support externally, that they don't need to work. They simply need to sit on at their homes on Facebook or social media or on a radio program. Don't seek to impact the lives of people while in opposition, and believe that there's some external entity who will be able to place them as a government of a country. Politics is hard work. Politics is about people. Politics is about impacting people's lives in a positive way. And people who are sincere about representing the interests of people must demonstrate that, not to wait to come into government to do so, but to do so as part of their life experiences. And so you'll always have those issues. And I think the issues which the people of Venezuela may raise in respect to the election and election results, I believe are matters that they should be allowed to deal with, and within their own constitutional and legal framework. And so, but if the electoral entity that is responsible for overseeing elections in Venezuela has indicated that there have been elections have been conducted freely and fairly, and they have shared with the results with not only the Venezuelan people, but all of us. Who am I to question it? You know, who am I to question it? And I'm not in a position to question the results. We have to go with the results that have been reported by the entity.
Does it matter?
Joshua, you heard the Prime Minister when he reacted there to what do you make of that?
Well, Matt, listening to the Prime Minister, you know, for a moment,
Yes, go
I'm
ahead.
like whether I'm listening to a political infant. Because the gentleman paid no regard to due process and to the true meaning of democracy. And he paid no regard to the people, the majority of the people in Venezuela. His focus was on Maduro and how the internal structure, the internal entities reported, the internal machinery, the electoral machinery in Venezuela reported that Maduro had won, and therefore who is he to question it? And congratulated the gentleman, but he went beyond that to justify Maduro's perceived victory by comparing what happened in Venezuela in July of 2024 to what happened in the United States when Biden emerged as president. Of course, yes, there were people in America who felt that Biden had rigged the election. And that is true. In every democracy, you get complaints. And more recently, you find people questioning the legitimacy of elections in perceived democracies. But there's something called evidence, Matt. And as a leader, you have to be very circumspect before you speak. If logic and reason is showing by evidence that this gentleman, Maduro, did not only lose the election, but he lost by a landslide, then the least you can do is cautiously make a remark and said, well, based on the results, you know, I'm prepared to congratulate the gentleman, but the people of Venezuela have concerns, and let's see how this works out over the next few days. But in the man's statement, there was disregard to the majority of the people in Venezuela, the very people that he talks about, that he stands for, the poor people, because in Venezuela has a lot of poverty, Matt. We cannot hallucinate or be delusional. Venezuela, in spite it is oil rich, nonetheless, the ordinary citizen in Venezuela is very poor. And leaders commenting on Venezuela should take that into consideration. It's not like Venezuela is a success story. And furthermore, even before the election in 2024, we had a number of opposition leaders imprisoned, intimidated, ordinary persons who were on the campaign trail for the opposition. Even the leader of the opposition herself had been briefly incarcerated. So you cannot just make a statement, you know, and disregarding those realities. That's the reality in Venezuela, Matt.
All right, somebody's saying there, man, this is very serious. The time for this black neo-colonialists and dictators are at the hand all the Caribbeans who have allowed Maduro to continue to steal election repeatedly must now stand up and go defend Venezuela along with all those who benefit from ALBA. On the telephone, hello, talk to me, yes? Oh, sorry about that. Let's take another phone call. Are you there, yes?
Yes, sir, I am there. Good afternoon, sir.
Listen to you, yes.
Yeah, listening to your former prime ministers in the Caribbean is listening to a bunch of jokers. When these people send their troops in Dominica and election they're using tear gas in Dominica, where were they? When Venezuela threatened Guyana, where were they? When Venezuela threatened Trinidad, where were these guys? And this so-called guy they call Prime Minister of Dominica, he's a I forget it. I want to use the word I want to use. But they're a bunch of hypocrites. Political hypocrites. You talk about America, and you had a guy who come on your radio not too long ago, he ends all this and not said. Every time he comes, he criticizes Trump. Criticize your prime minister. Don't worry about Trump. Venezuela is a crooked place. They send all the drugs to America, and America is going to deal with them whether those people down there want it or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hello, talk to me. Yes? Uh-huh.
Mr. Felty, blessings to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, yes.
And the Honorable Joshua Francis, my beloved brother, blessings to you.
Blessings.
I give thanks. I hear the brother use a term there. Let me see if I can recall. He was listening to political infant, something like that, sir. That's what is a political infant.
Yes.
So I usually use all these adjectives, this juvenile, puerile, delinquent, infantile, and I say one thing to describe him to show his immaturity and irresponsibility and trickery as well. It's very interesting. I have concluded that, and you're listening and you're saying, come on, there is no coherence, lack of common sense, lack of cohesion, and all of that. Lack of basic common sense then. I am saying Bob Marley, and I heard somebody sent it to me, and about 3 people sent it to me, where there will be no justice in the world when the rules or the laws are written by criminals. How similar is the same when context is not considered and motive is not known? How dare you contrast and compare what happened in America to what is taking place in Venezuela? It doesn't mean having to do with subordination or superiority one over the other. You following me, Josh?
I'm listening.
It doesn't mean that. No, it is a different context. It is a different motive. Because, it's only 2 terms these guys can run for in America, Josh.
That is correct.
Trump wants to make it 3 terms. He wants to be there forever. So if you're talking about Biden stealing an election or rigging an election, in comparison or contrasting what is happening in Venezuela, it's like an elephant and an ant. So it is so sad to see these hypocrites, these criminally minded dictators in the Caribbean, thieves, stealing our passports, the proceeds of our passport, the monies we make, millions of dollars disappear. And come in and talk about peace. You arrest Lennox Linton, you arrest Edison James, Thompson Fontaine, Hector Sparks John. You bring foreign people from overseas to go and frame him up with a briefcase. You go use Tony Astafan and set him up, saying about he hacked into your computer when it was Tony Astafan. How much crimes have you committed? All the hell, excuse in your face, Matt. Dominica can be a peaceful zone, or the region by extension. All this Gaston Brown, Hitler, Adolf Hitler, and Joe Holness, and all the other criminals in the Caribbean coming and talk of peaceful. Look, Kamala pass at the business are good for them. See you.
I tell you, what's that?
Matt, I haven't really paid deep interest in the comments that these leaders are making concerning Guyana and Trinidad. But one of your callers made a very important point. What is CARICOM saying about Venezuela's behavior towards Trinidad and Guyana? Well, we know earlier this year that Guyana and Venezuela entered into an agreement for non-militancy or no use of force, because Venezuela has laid claim to part of the Essequibo area, which is oil rich as well. That's where Guyana discovers some of its oils. So what is the position with CARICOM and Trinidad and Guyana, 2 countries supporting the United States of America, and of course Trinidad providing its waters for the American infrastructures to land there? So that's very interesting, Matt, and we must continue to pay attention. And of course, we should also be concerned about the drug trafficking within the region. And if the United States of America says that it's going to rid of cartels and drug trafficking within the region, we would want to embrace that, right? But of course, it has to be done in a certain way, in a certain manner. But that is a discussion for another time, Matt. I think the main reason why I'm here is to talk about the confirmation process, because right here internally in our domestic affairs, we have issues of paramount significance.
I saw you posting that you went through the process.
Yeah, I went through the confirmation process on Friday, and one of the reasons, apart from wanting to confirm, after all, I have 12 to 15 months to do so, but I did take note of a number of complaints from some of your callers, those who had gone out to confirm. They seem to have had certain experiences So I wanted to feel it for myself. I wanted to go there for
See
myself
for
and see.
yourself.
But in addition to that, I also had a conversation with the chief elections officer and the chief commissioner,
Okay.
the chairman of the electoral commission, just to get a better and clear understanding of what's happening. So yeah, Matt, I can take any question concerning the confirmation process.
I think one of the biggest complaints we've heard is really the birth certificate that's not being used, and sort of excluding the persons who cannot afford, and it's the only thing they have to their possession is a birth paper.
Right. Well, first of all, Matt,
How do we deal with that?
yeah. Before I deal with that, let me just put on public record that I was invited to a meeting by ERC, which is an entity that has been involved in this discussion and debate for years right now. And I suspect there may be a public statement, a joint public statement. We'll see. So I don't want to go in details, because at this hour, as I have said, we need a unified approach and we need a collective approach. We need a united voice in the opposition to give us a best chance to change that government. But whilst on that point, let me take the opportunity to say, Matt, before I answer the question, that we have to be grateful for where we are as far as the process is concerned. It took many years, but had it not been the sweat, the fight of certain individuals, we would not have gotten that far. Remember, the opposition had been calling for re-registration. Sadly, as expected, the government ministers, together with some person, voted yes for the confirmation process. I want to say that Dominica should place even more gratitude for the protesters on March 19th. Every protester who showed up to fight for Dominica, understanding that the vote which was before Parliament could change the political landscape of Dominica, because the election process is a pillar of any democracy. And this government, this Labour Party, has found a way to steal as many elections as possible. And these protesters felt that they had to stand up. They were advocating for re-registration. But the ayes have it. Parliament ruled for confirmation, amongst other things. Nonetheless, we have to be grateful because this confirmation process will eliminate some of the concerns that we have had. Now, I also want the public to acknowledge the efforts of Commissioner Hillary Shillingford and Wayne James. I believe they played an impeccable role in getting us where we are. They have been transparent, they have been accountable, they understand that their mission is to represent the people of Dominica as commissioners, and they did just that. They came out, they spoke with you, they spoke with media houses, they spoke with ordinary people. One may argue that given that they are on a commission, that it is not right for them to come out to speak publicly. I disagree. This is a public entity. This is an entity that's supposed to be free of political interference. It's supposed to be impartial. It's supposed to stand for integrity. And the light of every eye is supposed to be on it. And there's not supposed to be any crookedness and darkness in its operations. So Hillary and Wayne did a fantastic job. I believe had these two men not been strong, as we say in local parlance, if these guys were deficient or lacking testicular fortitude, we would not get a lot of things that we have today. As you know, the parent law, the new election laws, the modified, some of us say the modernized election laws, give the Electoral Commission, more so the chief, the power to make subsidiary laws. And that's where the SRO comes in. And of course, the root of the discussion that is burning on the island right now concerning the electoral process is rooted in the SRO that says that for confirmation, one could use a birth certificate with a passport size picture and an affidavit of identity together for witness. That is for those who would not have one of the three national IDs, a passport, a social security card, or a driver's license. It's unfortunate and regrettable in Dominica that we don't have a national ID card. One. Number two, to get a social security card, you have to either be self-employed or employed or about to be employed. I think the Social Security Act needs to be reviewed and to really allow Dominicans to have a Social Security card, irrespective of whether they have a job or about to get a job. It's something that's you're supposed to be entitled to as a Dominican. And then we have the passport issue. And that is where Dominica poverty is exposed. Matt, I don't have the data, but it appears from the numbers, from reports, there are still many Dominicans who do not have an ID at all. They don't have a Social Security card. They do not have a driver's license, and they do not have a passport. Now, failure to have one of these three IDs, would mean that you cannot confirm. Now, what happens if you cannot confirm? 12 to 15 months. If there's an election during that 12 to 15 months, as you know, without the confirmation process being completed, we would have to revert to the election list as it were in May of 2025. But some people ask me a question, if after 12, 15 months that they cannot confirm, what happens? Now, those who would not confirm in 12 to 15 months, that they would be able to re-register as a new voter. That's my understanding. So if within 12 to 15 months you are not confirmed because you do not have an ID, then after the 12 to 15 months, you can re-register, or you can register. But the question is whether you still need one of those IDs to register.
That is what I'm finding funny. So
Right.
you need an ID to reconfirm, or do you need an ID to register?
Well, under the old system, you did not need a national ID to register from the practice. Because another thing I want us to understand is that there is a variance between what's on the paper and what is being practiced, and I'm going to come to that. But Matt, the biggest concern, and rightfully so, about this process is a lot of people appears not to have one of these IDs. And technically what's happening is people are being disenfranchised, because if one does not have one of those IDs and cannot get one of those IDs, and that's a reality. Some people, maybe everybody can get a passport, but there is a cost to it. And more so, Matt, there are people who are bedridden. The law make provision for the people who are disabled cannot go to the police station or go to a photo shop to take a photo. You know, their passports size pictures are required. Maybe the photoshops can facilitate them. You know, a relative can take a photograph of that elderly person or that disabled person or that incapacitated person and send to the Photoshop for for cropping, which should then be made available with the passport form and then submitted to the immigration officer. So there are ways around it, but the reality is that some people do not have the means. And what we are hearing is discrimination is taking place because you have the Labour Party, which is well financially oiled. You know, there are reports that this Labour Party hands are very long going into the ocean of money. The opposition do not have that kind of money and therefore cannot sponsor, or at this point have not been able to sponsor Dominicans who are indigent, Dominicans who are poor and ID-less. So what you find again is an unlevel playing field. And some people are even suggesting that by virtue of the Dominican Labour Party operatives, and they are well within their political rights to go out there and to canvass, but because they have the money, giving people money to go and get an ID is a form of bribery. It's a form of treating. So to remove the treating and the bribery, I did hear Dr. Thompson Fountain with an excellent idea. Should the status quo remain, that the government probably should just have an amnesty for passports right now to provide for the indigent people to be able to get their passports without coming up with $150. So that's one. But that matter can be easily resolved. How can it be resolved? By a new SRO. There's nothing wrong in amending the Form 41. There's nothing wrong in amending the SRO to allow birth certificates with an ID and a witness with an affidavit. So, Matt, really, Dominicans have to keep calling on the Electoral Commission to make it possible and make it happen so we have a more level playing field and to avoid disenfranchisement, which was one of the key points that the advocates, speakers, and representatives of the Dominican Labour Party used to argue against re-registration. Because they were saying with this new re-registration process that Dominicans will be disenfranchised. And guess what? The people who they were saying who would be disenfranchised are those Dominicans in the diaspora. But now we have a situation where these very advocates seem to be silent or trying to justify why Dominicans who are indigent ought not to use a birth certificate to confirm. So you again, you see the hypocrisy, you see the double standard. That is another reason why we need to change of government, because these players were not and is not acting in the best interest of ordinary Dominicans, especially barefoot people.
Let's take a few calls. Hello, talk to me. Yes.
A few seconds, Matt. Josh, I love you. I respect you, my brother. Calling on who? Calling on who, Josh? Josh, we need to hit the streets. We need to go close to that and the Prevost Cinema. There is some U.S. consulate or whatever they have there. We look at the perfect opportunity passes by Creole Festival. You had foreign media, foreign people to hit the ground. Josh, you have to take the fight to them. And Matt, I want to advise you. There is a word they call sacre-bouo, or a term. When somebody says sacre-bou, you must not cut them off. Because a new term now, Matt, is sacre-bou. Because you have to boo them fellas there, Matt. Let me conclude there. I am saying, Matt, we ask for electoral reform. They give us electoral reconfirmation. We ask for voters' ID. They give us reconfirmation. Everything we ask for, they're doing something contrary. So now Skerrit and them, all these criminals in the region calling for peace. Not peace of what Skerrit want to give us. What percentage of the whole he want to give us, Matt? How much billions, Matt? About 8 billion? So if you want to give us piece of that, give us the percentage. We want no peace in the absence of justice. And these guys, we are tired of allowing these guys to just get away with broad daylight murder. And we are there talking and playing gentleman. Josh, I know you're a gentleman, but I try not to offend you. But sometimes, Josh, on the plains of Africa, I've seen it, where you fight fire with fire according to the direction the wind is blowing. You light up a fire in the opposite direction, so the fire that is coming up, when they meet together, they just burn and consume. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. These criminals, there you can take them lightly. Thank you.
All right, somebody's saying, please ask Joshua to speak to the fact that registration officers have been instructed to stop registration contrary to law and in order to concentrate on confirmation. This practice will disenfranchise many young people coming of age within 12 to 15 months and so do entitled to vote as well. Can you speak to that, Joshua?
Matt,
we have to wrap up.
Right. I'm not aware of any law which forbids registration right now. What I want to tell the public, there's a difference between a registration officer and an enrollment officer.
While the confirmation is going on, I'm being told that people have, I heard from Mr. Wayne that people can't register.
I'm not aware of that. If there's a regulation, then I would have to look at it. But as we speak at this hour, I do not have that fact. And if it's a fact, and therefore I'm not prepared to speak on it, but it's something I will look at. But Matt, from my experience, having gone to Lubia to confirm my name on the voters list, I had to address the actual form, because I did hear Commissioner Wayne James speaking of having on the form current address, and we're talking about Form 31. That form basically allows a voter to put in his or her information, and that information is then inserted on the computer software program. However, after speaking to the chief elections officer and going through the process myself, I noted that the form has current address, and I did have, like Wayne, had some concerns about that. But on the software, it seemed to be suggesting that you put in the address of where you are registered to vote. So in my case, as an example, what was placed, it's part of it is on the form.
Right.
Your name, your polling district, your constituency. So when that information is put on the software is supposed to capture your address as it is on the current voters list. Now, keep in mind that if the address is changed technically, meaning that if you go and you confirm, the information is being put on the computer system. If the address is changed or different from what is on the voters list, technically that could shift your polling district. But it is in such a way to avoid that shift. And the law provides for someone who wishes to transfer his or her vote to confirm and then to fill in the prescribed form. But so that's one concern. Another concern that I had and continue to have is enrollment officers being empowered and instructed to make changes to people's names. So for example, if someone name, as in your case, Matt Peltier, your last name Peltier, but on the voters list, it is Peltiere, which is different to what's on your ID, your driver's license or social security card or your passport. An enrollment officer ought not and should not simply just remove the E when you're being confirmed, because a confirmation is to verify what has already previously happened. You're basically going there to say, what is on that list? That is me, Matt Peltier. But if an E at the end of Peltier, that is not the Matt Peltier that is on your driver's license, your passport, and on your social security card. And the law provides for a situation like that to be dealt with by law. The Registration of Birth and Death Act says that if there's an error on a birth certificate, which causes an error in registration to vote, then that person has to have, as in some cases, a statutory declaration to correct the name or an affidavit of identity. Because if your birth certificate is, ends with R on your voters list, there's an E, your witness and the enrollment officer may say, yeah, I know, Matt, that was an error when you has been registered. Yes, that is true. There's an error, but there's also a procedure to correct the error, as opposed to an enrollment officer just taking it on her own and just removing the E, if you get what I'm saying. So I definitely would hope, and I did speak with the chief election officer about that concern, and she was graceful, I must say. She was very, very graceful, very informative. And she did say that is a matter that she would address. I also spoke with Mr. Duncan about the matter, and he too acknowledged the issue. And I suspect the ERC will capture that concern in a correspondence, if any, to the chief elections officer. I'm really not in a position to speak on behalf of the ERC.
I can tell you this information, this education has to continue. I'm going to invite you back here on Wednesday, but we have a little time now.
Yes, I'm hoping that I will get the time. I don't think I have any court on Wednesday, and I'm always prepared and willing to come out there and interact.
That education is very important.
Yes.
So, Dominica, stay tuned. I'll invite Joshua back on Wednesday afternoon, maybe more time.
Hopefully, Matt, as I said, once I'm available, by the grace of God, I'll be there. As usual, it's always, gratitude to be here with you and to speak with Dominicans. Matt, we must act with haste and with urgency to really rescue our country, to put Dominica on a path of true development, because right now where we are, it's not in a good place.
All right, we'll talk about that and more.
Yeah, I want to talk about the World Music Festival and how viable it is for Dominica.
We have to, but I have another appointment coming up. So
yeah, very well.
Let's do that.
Bonjour.
Dominica, thank you very much. Listen again for more education coming up. All right. Bye now.
In life, we move at a different pace. All we need is to be supported. Cause when the baby's coming, business needs revamping, the new job started, and you need an outfit. Let momentum hook you up. Momentum will hook you up. The wedding's planning, rent through dates coming. Momentum is your support financing. Let momentum hook you up. Momentum will hook you up.
Take advantage of NCCU's Momentum Loan and get the support you need for whatever stage you are in life, with a tiered interest rate and exclusive emergency fund component. Let NCCU's Momentum hook you up. Call 255-2126. Email membercare@nccudominica.com or visit any NCCU location for more details. Your phase, your pace, our support.
During the hurricane season, if you are evacuating, leave early so that you are not stranded by flooded roads, fallen trees, wires, and traffic jams, and make sure you have enough fuel in your vehicle and follow routes and highways. A message from 295 FM Radio.
Messieurs, autre nouvelle qui nous pour confirmer pour nous savoir. Oui, confirmation pour l'élection commencer. Pour ça, allez à l'office élection en Liwan et menez au monde qui registre pour vote en même polling station et puis pour ça servir au témoin. Et là, on va venir mener en carte d'identité saoudien ou ni en déshabilité. Pas mêlé. Il y a ni officier qui est venu au tir pour information. Confirmation, c'est le 15 octobre 2025 et qu'a dit Yonani. Pour plus d'informations, il est 617 9595. Et bien, suivre l'office élection à son média social. Pour ça, allez confirmer la même.
All you, I just meet Goldwyn in Roseau again. Same place outside Flossie's. I tried to dock in, but you had time see me. Well, story start again. Million, lot of my power with us, huh? Saka fella, I said the same thing you doing, shopping at Flossie's, and you don't have to tell me the same thing you tell me last time because I'm busy. It's to hear him way. You reckon? About my pocket, boy. I won't tell you that I save money in food and drinks when I buy quantity. I save more. Oh, shucks, man. Good when you're still telling me. I know already. To pack a spit him, eh? But it can him up here for Palais. I will tell all my friends from London, US and Dominica to come to Floss's. Right next to the Rosa Market. Open Sunday to Saturday. Floss's can't do it to you.
C'est petit petit qui a fait when it tombé. Bolo de qui a fait sanana. Tout dit que wan umago. Il est quoi les garçons qui a tué Vegas. Tout ça. C'est vite ça n'a jamais. C'est vite là pour les bébés. On dit pas nous toutes ces bagailles ça. Pour que si qu'on et à nous tenir cosa. C'est petit petit qui a fait when me dormir. So like be à ta toi tu la nuit. Si t'es qu'à chanter en acier. Et garçons à fouiller poche. Et yes qui est tout ça. C'est vite ça la capa jamais bon. Si vite là pour les bébés. On dit pas toutes ces bagailles ça. Pour que si qu'on et à nous tenir cosa. C'est petit petit qui a fait when it tombé. Les fois pour cahier la nuit. Si oui quand il est à pour yo c'est pour la cacher yo petit vous êtes tout ça. C'est vite ça la capa jamais bon. Si vite là pour les bébés. Moi j'ai c'est pas ça. Principal e hanno centi cosa. Se piti piti che cappello e me dormi. Non la caleci be manico. Le la linga che mi assieme. E io a chez cuisson. Inside. C'est vite ça la jamais mort. Si vite la bébé, quand t'es mal, tout c'est ça. La petite conne, et un petit cosa. C'est petit qui capelle, ouais, mais dormi. Zampa cali, tu visika, kati vitim les souhaits, et tout le monde capovinas, chichou, bête, ça. C'est vite ça la capa, jamais mort. Si vite là pour les bébés, on démarre toutes ces bagages, la petite conne, et un petit cosa. E hanno gentile cosa. E hanno Free brother Dominica, land so great, land so sweet. You are so wonderful, you are so bountiful, there is no matter. You gave me birth right here on earth. You fed and nurtured me, strengthened all my son you. And please be more so praise, please, Mother Dominica, land so great, land so sweet. You are so wonderful, you are so bountiful, there is no matter. Thank you for all your blessings free that you give to me. Nature is fullest in love, what more